Hi YouTube, it's Shelly and I am back to do a little bit of a discussion on foundations for different skin types. I have extraordinarily oily skin and it is such a struggle for me to find a foundation that doesn't turn me into an oil slick within an hour, and yes, I mean within an hour. I watch so many tutorials, reviews, and things of that nature on YouTube for people that claim to have oily skin, and I'm sure they do, but when I'm watching it I just think mine's oilier. Nope, mine's oilier. I always think that nobody has the problem like they say they do as much as I do. But instead of just focusing on that, I do want to talk about other skin types and what foundations are best for you and what to do to your skin before applying that foundation for it to work best to your advantage. But I will talk about oily skin first. I love the coverage of a liquid foundation. I think it's the type of foundation that looks the most natural on your skin, that doesn't look so makeup-y. It's the most natural way to even out your skin tone and have it come out looking like you don't have a lot of makeup on. The problem with the liquid foundations when you have oily skin is you mix a liquid with the oil that's coming out of your sebaceous glands throughout the day, and it just kind of turns into this what a lot of people refer to as an oil slick, and your makeup starts to separate because it's like putting olive oil into boiling water. It just separates, and that's what happens to your face throughout the day, and it is extraordinarily frustrating. And the number one thing makeup artists will tell you if you have oily skin is to incorporate a primer into your regimen before putting on your foundation, which I have done, multiple different primers. And if you read a lot about primers on like makeupalley.com and read the reviews, or any blogging websites about makeup, a lot of women who have oily skin that say they use a primer, it can tend to make their skin look more oily. There's multiple different factors of why this could happen. A lot of primers tend to be oil or silicone based, and it just doesn't really mix well with people who have oily skin. And then you could buy a mattifying primer that isn't oil based, but there's something about the properties of a primer that just don't mix well with oily skin. They may hold on to your makeup better, and I think that's what those mattifying primers are meant to do. Is all primers are meant to do that, but I think the mattifying primers are supposed to have an extra hold on it, since it's geared toward people who have oily skin. The problem is you can't hold on to your makeup, but we're also concerned about how shiny we look throughout the day. Our makeup may still stay on because of that primer, but it's not making us any less oily. A lot of makeup artists and makeup gurus tell you that when you apply a liquid foundation and you have oily skin, to set it with a powder. They also say that too much powder tends to make you look too cakey and makeup-y. So a lot of people with normal to dry skin apply a really extraordinarily light dusting of a translucent powder just to set the powder and not to do anything else. When you have oily skin, you have a tendency to either continue to add that powder throughout the day to keep it from looking oily, and you just look cakier and cakier and cakier throughout the day, which sometimes I think, I don't care if it looks like I have makeup on as long as I don't look like a grease ball. But reality, I want both. I want the best of both worlds. So a couple different things. A lot of makeup artists, I'm going to keep repeating myself by saying makeup artists because I take a lot of knowledge into what makeup artists have to say. I mean, they know what they're doing. This is what they do for a living, and I really do take a lot of interest in what they have to say. And a lot of what they do say is that powder foundations are not their first choice because it's not the most natural looking finish. And I agree with that, which is why I like a liquid foundation as far as the way the finish looks. However, if you have extraordinarily oily skin like me, and you love the coverage of a liquid foundation but can't seem to keep it on your face throughout the day without it either coming off or looking like a grease ball, a powder foundation is a really good alternative as long as you apply it correctly. And this is what I'm going to teach you guys. I'm going to talk about two products. One of them is the MAC Studio Fix Powder Foundation. They have also Studio Tech, which is like a mix between a powder and a cream. But I've come back to this. I haven't used this in probably 5 years because after being in the skincare industry and learning about what makeup you should and shouldn't use, liquid foundation is such a strong like push for what you should be using, not a powder foundation. But after my struggles with oily skin, I just decided, you know what, I'm going to just try it, revert back to it. I've learned that if I want the same look as what a liquid foundation can give me, I started using a brush. This is a Real Techniques buffing brush, and I'm going to do a review on these brushes. They're amazing. But I've been using this to apply my powder foundation, and when I went to the MAC counter to get swatched for color, I talked to her about this because I saw a tutorial of a girl using this, using a brush, and I thought, genius, that's genius. I think that brushes tend to be more sanitary because you can clean them, and you can clean them, you know, after each use, and when you're using a sponge, it soaks up so much of the product and doesn't put as much of it onto your face, so you end up kind of wasting the product a little bit, and that's why I like these brushes. A lot of people would say this is almost shaped like a stippling brush, but it's a little bit more dense than a stippling brush, and it works really well to apply this powder. A lot of people would use a bigger powder brush to apply it to their face. I like a smaller one because it helps me to get into the nooks and crannies a little bit easier, but whatever your preference, any powder brush that you like that's very soft but dense would be great to help apply this. I can do a tutorial on this if you guys want to, but I'll wait for that request just so I'm not wasting, you know, mine or anybody else's time making a random video that nobody wants to watch. But if you want me to do a tutorial on how to apply this, I will do that if you guys request it. But this is an excellent alternative to using a liquid foundation if you have really oily skin and want to have a more matte look throughout the day. And like I said, the secret to not looking too cakey using a powder foundation is to apply it with a brush. And once you've applied it, as long as you buff it really well into the skin, and you're blending it, it looks a lot more natural than you would just applying it with a sponge. So that's my trick to getting a matte look with good coverage, because this does have excellent coverage for a powder foundation. It's comparable to having the finish of a liquid foundation, which everybody loves. The other thing that I would recommend, if you have perfect skin, you wouldn't really need to do much else than this because it really does have good coverage to it. But if you have problem spots like myself, either acne scarring or acne spots or sunspots or, you know, dark under eyes, use a concealer before you put this on. A lot of people will say that you can use a concealer after you put on a foundation, which is very true to a liquid. I think that that's possible because liquid on liquid, it blends really well. But if you try to put, you know, a liquid or cream concealer over this, it's not going to blend into your skin. It's just going to sit on top of that powder and look ridiculous. So this will give you excellent coverage if you use your concealer, blend that concealer, and really cover up those hard spots with the concealer, and then apply this over top. It's wonderful. I like a full coverage foundation, and I think this can give it to you if you work with it. And it's worth it to me because I don't look like an oil slick when I use this. Now, this is expensive. This tends to be about $26.50, and I think with tax it comes out to $28. So what I decided to do is on my in-between days when I'm not doing anything, where I'm going out and it's not imperative that my makeup looks perfect, but I just want a little bit of coverage and whatnot to go to the grocery store, I've been using this. I also used this in high school in between my purchases of the MAC Studio Fix, just because it's really cheap, and I'm telling you, I'm not making this up. I can't stand it when people do reviews and I go and I buy a product and it sucks. This is very, very comparable to the MAC Studio Fix. Now, let me preface that with saying the MAC Studio Fix is a much better quality product. It's going to last longer, it's going to give you better coverage, but if you want something similar that's going to cost you 5 times as less, this is a great product. It has the same consistency and thickness as this powder foundation that MAC makes. It also comes with a very similar sponge on the inside, which I don't use because I've come to learn about these brushes. But this is also a great sponge for a drugstore brand product. You can wash it. It doesn't come apart. It's great. I love these sponges if you're going to use them. And if I'm out and about and I don't have my brush with me, I will use this. As you can see, it's a tad dirty. But this product is great. My biggest con about this product is it doesn't have a lot of shades to choose from, so you have to be a good match for what they offer. I think it's like 5 shades, maybe 4. So you have to get lucky, but I am lucky in this, and in that this color works for me, and I believe this color is 30, which is nude. They have 10, 20, 30, I want to say 40, but I haven't seen that on the shelves lately, and a 60, which is pretty dark. And I'm tan for right now. You can't tell with this camera, but I am tan for myself right now, and so normally I'm a 20, but today I'm using a 30. But this is a really great product. I use it the identical way that I use the MAC Studio Fix. I use a concealer on my problem spots, and then I buff it on with this brush, and I use that as my everyday, you know, grocery store, whatever, going out to lunch foundation, and then I'll use my MAC Studio Fix for more formal events or places that I really want my makeup to last and look nice throughout the night. But again, these are great alternatives for people who have extremely oily skin and want the coverage of a foundation. It's not going to be the same. I don't want to get anybody's hopes up. Nothing is the same as a liquid foundation. But these are extremely close, and I'm picky about coverage. I want full coverage. I want my skin to look as flawless as I can make it, and these are really, really good candidates of helping me make that happen if I can't use a liquid foundation. So that was what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Again, if you want me to do a tutorial on it, I will. It's pretty simple. I more wanted to talk to you guys about the product and how it applies to people with oily skin. As far as people with dry skin, those two products can work for you if you're just not into wearing something liquidy on your face. I know that some people just don't like the feeling of having a liquid foundation on their face. And if you have dry skin, I would just recommend that you find a good moisturizer that works for your skin type, that I hear makeup artists say this all the time, that's very emollient, and what that means is just a very lustrous moisturizer, so that it's really seeping into your skin, it's not just sitting on the surface, and that when you first put a lotion on, it feels like it's moisturizing you, and then in 30 minutes it's soaked into your skin and you still feel dry. That's not an emollient moisturizer. Again, this is one of those things that everybody has an opinion on what works best, and if I were you and I have dry skin and you want to use a powder foundation, I would go to the drugstore and read the labels that talk about an emollient moisture, super rich, you know, things like that. Something that is really going to keep your skin moisturized before you put a powder foundation on. Because if you have dry skin and you put a powder foundation on, you're going to look drier. It's just the way that it is. So if you have dry skin and you want to use a powder foundation, just make sure you moisturize really, really well and let that moisturizer sink into your skin before you put this on. Otherwise, it's just going to mix in with the moisturizer that's sitting on the layer, you know, the top layer of your skin, and it won't blend well. So I always recommend, if you have dry skin and you're putting a moisturizer on before you put your makeup on, to let it sink in, let it do its job before you put your makeup on. If you have normal skin, I hate you. I wish I was you. I don't believe that if you have normal skin, you should be putting a heavy moisturizer on. You know, let your skin tell you what it needs. I would recommend a light moisturizer, something like Cetaphil or something gentle like that. I don't believe in lotions that have fragrances in them. I think that it's great if if your makeup and lotions smell good, yeah, that's great, but is it necessary to have a fragrance in your skin? No, it's not, and I don't think that your skin's meant to have that kind of stuff in it, and that's also the dermatology training in my head speaking. So something light, something that doesn't have a fragrance in it. If you have normal skin, apply that, let it sink in just like a dry skin person would before putting on your powder foundation. I feel like this video is 20 minutes long. I really hope that this is helpful for you guys. As I stated in the first video that I made, everybody's going to have their own opinion on what works best for them, and if you found something that works for you and that debates what I'm talking about, fine. You know, this is just from my experience what I've learned, and I think everybody's skin is so different, and I can say that this, you know, generally works for people with oily skin, and there's one person out there that has oily skin and they say this sucks for me, and there's always going to be that. So I'm not trying to say that I'm 100% right. I just want to be helpful for people that find this product after I talk about it and it really works for them and they're so happy. That's my goal. So hopefully that's what I've accomplished making this video today. I did say also in my first video that I'm going to be doing a review on the NYX HD Studio Photogenic Foundation. This is new and I haven't found a tutorial on it yet. I'm actually going to do a tutorial on, a review on this. I'm not going to do tutorials unless you guys request it, because I just feel like there's so many tutorials out there that nobody watches, and unless it's requested, I will do it. So, but I am going to do a review on this. This is the one liquid foundation that I love, and I'm going to do a review on this. So, again, I really hope this was helpful for you guys, and if you have questions, feel free to comment, and I'll do my best to look through them and try to answer some of those questions for you. So good luck everybody, and hopefully that was helpful. Till then.